Good day. Today we're going to learn about prepositions. In particular, we're going to learn how to identify prepositions and how to use them in a sentence to add more details and more variety to the sentence. So, what are prepositions? Now, prepositions are words that define a certain type of relationship between a noun or can be a pronoun with another word. Now this type of relationship that we're talking about here, it depends on the type of preposition that we use. So this type of relationship can be in terms of place, in terms of time, and in terms of manner. So let's say I want to show a relationship between myself, which is a pronoun, and the wall. So I want to use it in a sentence as such. I leaned. So here I did an action, and I want to show the relationship of leaning with the wall. So this is the wall, this is another word. So I will use a preposition to show the relationship between leaning and the wall. In this case, I'm going to say against the wall. In this sense, the preposition here shows a relationship between leaning and the word wall. So let's say again I want to show a relationship between a ball and the net. So I will use it in a sentence that shows that in terms of the verb. So I would say the player spiked the ball. The spiking of the ball, I want to use it to show the relationship between this part and the net. So I would use the preposition over the net. The preposition over shows this type of relationship. And when we change the preposition, we change the whole meaning of the sentence because it changes the type of relationship between the noun or pronoun in a sentence and the word I want to show relationship with. For example, if I change the word over to below, then the whole meaning of the word or the sentence changes. So how many prepositions do we have in English language? There are lots of them. All you have to do is to understand how they work in language and at least memorize the common prepositions that you usually see in many sentences. Some of them can be, let's say, after or before. These are some of the prepositions that show relationship in terms of place or time. You can we have the word against and as, at shows location, you have by, into, you have near, a preposition of place. A despite shows a preposition of action in terms of contrast. Down, place, during shows relationship of time, and so on. A lot of these prepositions. All you have to do is check these out in any source that shows the prepositions. Now, this leads us to what does the preposition really introduce? We saw the relationship between the word and another word. Now, what do these introduce? We're going to talk a bit now about prepositional phrases. What are prep phrases? So what are prepositional phrases? Now, prepositional phrases start with a preposition. We should have a preposition at the beginning plus the noun or pronoun which functions as the object of this preposition. We call this an OP, or object of preposition. In addition to any complements or modifiers that modify that noun or preposition. The whole thing is then your prepositional phrase. So if you go back to the earlier sentence, which is the player spiked the ball over the net. Now, in this sentence, over is your preposition that we look for, and this is followed usually by a noun, and this is over the noun that shows the relationship between the player or the ball and the net. So net should be part of your prepositional phrase, in addition to the article that modifies the net, because it's a modifier here. So your prepositional phrase in this case is over the net. So let's take this sentence as an example. The audience rushed through the opened gates, down the street, and into the new stadium. Now, if you look at this sentence, we look at the prepositions. The first preposition we find is through. This is through. And down and into. So we have these prepositions here. Through, down, into. Now, how do we know where the prepositional phrase is? And we know the prepositional phrase starts with preposition, so we're going to start the first one here with the first preposition, and should include the noun that is an object, which is through what? Through the gates. So this should be also part of the prepositional phrase. And any modifiers or complements that complete the meaning of the phrase or the noun. So the gates are modified by being open, and of course the modifies gates. So we include the whole thing as our first preposition phrase. This is number one. The second one, of course, always starts with preposition, which is down. Down what? Down the street. So this is your second prepositional phrase. Then you have the third one, which starts also with preposition and ends with your noun here, which is into the stadium. Into the stadium, the new is modifying stadium and then modifying stadium. So these should be part of your prepositional phrase. And so this is your third prepositional phrase. So the key here, before you know what is prepositional phrase, first you have to know what is a preposition. You have to revise all the common prepositions that you find, and as you read every time, notice how writers use prepositional phrases and prepositions to show specific and unique relationship between a noun or pronoun and any word.